Hey YouTube, this is Marcus or Garwin again with another video. Today I'm going to talk about something that I haven't really talked about before because I've never really considered it intelligent enough to discuss. But apparently this movement of flat earthers is gaining traction. And I was talking to a buddy of mine a year or so ago, and he came up with an argument in favor of it. And then I explained to him the science of how it worked, and he never really had a response to it. So I'm going to give you the argument he gave me, and then explain, I've got the little girl out here with me, and then explain why this phenomenon happens. Alrighty, so I guess the best thing I have to demonstrate this, what he was talking about, was I've got some old tires. I'm going to bury these and make them into a little climbing thing for the kids. We still haven't put their swing set back together. But his argument was basically that the sun, well, I'm trying to remember how it went. Basically that the sun was smaller than the earth, and his had something to do with the horizon. You know, why was if you look out at the horizon, it looks flat, and you can see that the sun is indeed smaller than the earth when you're looking in the atmosphere, because the sun fits within the space of the earth's atmosphere. But they're not taking into account perspective on an object as large as a planet. Imagine that you are a flea, and you, say, are crawling around on the surface of this tire. Alright? To your perspective, unless you got way high up in the air, this would feel flat to you. Because even though it's not, obviously, even the sidewalls are slanted. If you were a microscopic organism on the surface of this tire, it would feel flat to you, because you were so small compared to the object that you're on, kind of like us and the earth. We are so small compared to the earth that it feels flat to us. And take that in conjunction with the uneven surface of the earth, like these mountains here, and it takes a great distance for the gradual curvature of the earth to become visible to the naked eye, which is one reason that that in order to even see a slight curvature to the surface of the earth, you've got to be pretty high up in the air, like next to space, before you can actually sort of see the very gradual kind of curvature to the horizon of the earth. And so perspective and your distance from the objects that you're looking at has a whole lot to do with it. You can take smaller objects that are closer to you, and they will look larger than the objects that are larger but farther away from you. You know, like at this distance, my hand takes up a little over half the screen here. How much space does my hand take up on the screen now? Now you know that I just moved it closer and farther away from this lens here, but the same basic principle applies. The farther away something is from you, the less area in your field of vision it takes up, and therefore the smaller it appears in relation to the other objects that are closer to you. So I'm going to take this little tire, and I'll roll one of these big ones down here somewhere, and I will show you how we can make, on a camera lens, this little tire appear bigger than that big tire. Alrighty, so I've rolled one of the big tires down there. Now you saw that that tire was very obviously larger than that one. I've had them laying here a little while. I hadn't had a chance to mess with them. They killed my grass. But you could see that that tire right there was very obviously larger than this little car tire. But from this perspective, which one looks bigger on screen? Now let's imagine that we're some microscopic organism, and that the gradual curvature on the surface of this tire is the gradual curvature of the surface of the earth. Alright? Here we are sitting on the surface of the earth looking at our sun. Does the surface in this lens not appear flat? Does the object in the distance not appear smaller than the object that you're sitting on? But we know that this tire is in reality curved and much smaller than one of these. And one argument I hear when I've mentioned this to people is, oh, well, when we go 30,000 feet in the air, it still looks flat. 30,000 feet is nothing compared to the size of the Earth as a whole. You realize that at 30,000 feet, you are still inside the little bubble of air that is held in place by the Earth's gravity and magnetic field. You still have not technically left the object that is the planet Earth. So 30,000 feet to us, because we are so small in relation to the Earth, might feel like a great distance, but in reality, it's not. That's why you can only just start to see the curvature of the Earth when you're at like the edge of space. And to really get a good picture of the Earth as a sphere, you got to leave the planet Earth and get some distance between you. Even people on the International Space Station, you know, it dominates their view, and although you can see that it's round at that distance, it still dominates their view because it's so large and you have to get so far away from it to see its actual shape. So to recap, the Earth is not flat. It is very big, and it appears flat to things, I guess I should say, like us, that are very, very minuscule in relation to the size of the Earth. The Sun does appear smaller to the Earth from our perspective because of our proximity to the Earth and distance from the Sun, and the surface of the Earth is covered with unevenness. You know, you've got mountains and valleys and oceans and ridges, just like the surface of this round tire has treads. It's not, you know, but when you back up away from it, you can look at it and say, oh, okay, that tire is round, just like this one is round. And like we demonstrated before, we know that this tire is much smaller than that one. But when you get close to this one and you look at that one takes up much less space in your field of vision and therefore appears smaller. Especially if you imagine for a moment that you are some microscopic organism that lives on the surface of this tire. Its surface will appear relatively flat, while the Sun appears very small and very far away. Even though we know that none of that is true. Now, I understand where this is coming from. There's a lot of people that don't... The universe is a big place, and we still don't understand everything about it. That's why we have religion. You know, that's why people invented gods in the first place. You know, in olden days, before we all kind of settled on our monotheistic beliefs, basically anything that people didn't understand, there was a god. You didn't understand why there were hurricanes and tidal waves? Well, that was Poseidon, god of the sea. You didn't understand what the sun was or how it worked? Well, in Egypt, that was Ra, the sun god. You know, you didn't understand what lightning was. That was Zeus, the god of thunder. You didn't understand why people went to war with each other. That must have been the work of some god named Mars, or Ares if you're Greek. You know, there's a lot of, and even today, as much as we do know, and as much as technology that we've developed has helped us, there is still a lot of things that we don't understand. There are wavelengths of light that we cannot see without the aid of technology, frequencies of sound that we cannot hear without special technology. There's a lot of things that we're just beginning to scratch the surface on, and there's a lot of things to be learned about not just the universe but the planet that we do live on. But a lot of that progress cannot be made if you're holding on to Stone Age beliefs that the Earth is flat. It's not. Stop wasting your time with silly bullshit and just look and think about things that you can see. Think about the fact that you are a very limited creature. You have 5 senses that are very limited. You know, we've only got 2 eyes this far apart that can only see a very narrow band of the light spectrum. So we are susceptible to not only our own prejudices as far as our beliefs and things that we want to see or want to believe are true, but also in terms of our perspective, you know, because we are so small and minuscule and in some ways insignificant compared to the size of the universe and the things in it, that it's incomprehensible that something could be that big. So hopefully I was able to give you a very simple layman's version of why the sun appears smaller than the earth and why the earth appears flat even when you're at very high altitudes. So if you have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, or input, please post them in the comment section below and I will get to them as necessary. And somebody wants to play with me, so I'm going to go take care of her. So anyway, this is Marcus out. Y'all take care. Have a good one.